so how'd you do on your homework? What are some of the words that are used to describe creation? Now, I just want to point two things out as you consider answering or not answering this question. First, you realize that people are going to come as the service unfolds, so you and I are going to have to remind them that they missed the first part of my drash. So with your help, we'll kind of bring them in. Second, quicker you answer the questions, guess what happens? Quicker we move on. So let's see who wants to answer this question. So what were some of the adjectives used to describe creation? I'm sorry? Without form? Okay, so it is described as formless sort of at the beginning. What else? What are some of the other adjectives that are used? Huh? It's goodly. What else? Beautiful. Huh? Glorious. Absolutely. So goodly, beautiful, glorious. Here's the adjective. Yeah, Frank family pulling it. So here's the adjective, though, that's not used. Okay? The Torah, nor does the Siddur here in this blessing of creation, never says that creation is perfect. It never says that creation is shalem, whole, complete, or perfect. What it says is that it is, well, what's the biblical word? What does the Torah use to describe creation in the first chapter of Genesis? It's tov, exactly. It's good. Now, good, by the way, doesn't necessarily mean it's morally good, right? We don't look at the world itself in creation and say, well, that sunset is morally good, right? But good here means that it works. And what it means to work is that it means that creation provides us with what we need to live. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy, and it doesn't mean that bad things aren't going to happen in creation and in this world in which we live in, right? On the contrary, if someone wants to do something bad, can you really stop them? No. If someone is absolutely determined to do something evil, they will probably be able to do it. Right? We will try to stop them as best we can, but we will not be able to stop everybody. Right? So there's no promises here. There's only an assertion that we're to understand that this world is good, which means, as I said, it provides us with what we need in order to live, in order to breathe, in order to eat, in order to survive. And if we nurture that, we not only survive, but we can flourish and thrive. So the first thing that I want people to kind of keep in mind is the nature of creation and the nature of the world around us. That it is good, but not perfect. We continue now, page 238, Ahava Rabbah.
Ahava Rabbah Ahavtanu Adonai Eloheinu Vahavienu leshalom me'arba kanfot haaretz v'tolichenu komemiyut le'artzenu ki el po'el yeshuot ata ubanu v'charta mikolam v'lashon וקרבתנו לשמך הגדול סלע סלע באמת להודות לך ולייחדך באהבה ברוך אתה אדוני הבוחר בעמו ישראל באהבה.
As we turn to the Shema on page 242, I want to invite anyone who's wearing a talit, if they wish to participate in this custom. It is customary at this point in time to gather the tzitzit in one's hand for it. You can, if you're wearing one, you can gather them. If you're not wearing one, you can share with the person next to you. Emmett there has his talit, so maybe Emmett will share with the people around him. And as we get ready to say the Shema on page 242, what I encourage people to consider is the following. In this world in which we experience it as good but not perfect, what is something good that you've experienced this past week? I know there have been some wonderful celebrations, some wonderful moments in people's lives over this past week. So I'd ask people to reflect upon the good that people have experienced. Page 242, the Shema. Okay, so the second installment of my drash occurs now. So For the first part, we were talking about creation and about the nature of creation and the words that the Siddur and the Torah use to describe creation. And what is the word that the Torah nor does the Siddur use to describe creation? What's the one word we know is not there? Creation is not perfect, right? But creation is meant to be seen as it's good, right? But good and not perfect leaves us in a state where we're uncertain. In a world that's good but not perfect, wonderful things can happen, amazing things can happen, and do happen. But in a world that is good but not perfect, bad things happen. And that leaves us uncertain. There is a lost child in the aisle. One of yours. Okay, I was just checking. All righty. So, we're now about to read the book of Kohelet. This is traditionally read on the Shabbat between the beginning and end of the holiday of Sukkot, on the Shabbat of Chol HaMoed Sukkot as it's referred to. Okay, and this is a book that many of us actually know some of the most famous lines. So, for example, for every season, turn, there we go, right? There is a time for everybody, right? All of this comes from the book of Kohelet. All of this comes from the book of Ecclesiastes, and I believe we're going to be singing some of this. So, the book of Kohelet and the selections we have us focus on a few things, right? How do we live in a world that is good but not perfect, in a world that is filled with uncertainty? And the first thing that Kohelet teaches us is we have to acknowledge that life is very fragile, that life is continually unfolding and flowing and moving from one moment to the next. And where that can leave us is feeling that our lives are futile, right? And that the flow of life might give us a sense of a lack of purpose. Kohelet will come around and say, no, 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 no. Even though life is fragile, there is a time for every experience in this earth, right? And we don't respond to the fragility of life by losing hope. We respond to the fragility of life by trying to fill our lives with as much joy as possible. So the first thing that we discussed noted that our world is good but not perfect. And this reading will now have us focus on the fact that in that lack of perfection, in this world where so many good things can happen and so many bad things can happen and seem to happen all on the same day and at the same time, we respond by seeking out in those moments where we can the joy that the world has to offer us. We now have the orange sheets, which Ray Glasser is here in the middle of the aisle handing out if people don't have. If you have a row or so that needs, just put your hand up. Y'all need? They think they need up here? And a few over here, Ray? And we're going to begin our recitation of the book of Kohelet. The way that we do it here is Karen Aronoff is going to chant some of the opening verses and closing verses of the book of Kohelet, of the book of Ecclesiastes. And in between, we're going to intersperse it with some music and with some song,
which you are invited to sing along with. Some of you may know one or even both of these songs, so please feel free to join along with them. I'd like to point out also that the second song, which is on the back of the sheet, the song, the Hebrew song Kefel by the wonderful Israeli composer Nachum Haiman, also expresses the duality that we feel in life between different possibilities and extremes of our lives. Just as the English song, which is an artistic rendering of chapter 3. Divrei Kohelet ben David melech Birushalayim Havel avalim amar Kohelet Havel avalim akol havel Mayitron la'adam bechol amalo sheya'amol tachat hashamesh Dor olech v'dor ba ve'haaretz le'olam omadet V'zarach hashemesh uva hashamesh Ve'el mikomo shoef zoreachu sham לכל זמן ועת לכל חפץ תחת השמיים, עת ללדת ועת למות, עת לטעת ועת לעקור נטוע, עת להרוג ועת לרפוא, עת לפרוץ ועת לבנות, עת לבכות ועת לשחוק, עת צפות ועת רקוד, עת להשליך אבנים ועת כנוס אבנים, עת לחבוק ועת לרחוק מחבק, עת לבקש ועת להקפד, עת לשמור ועת להשליך, עת לקרוע ועת לתפור, עת לחשות ועת לדבר, עת לאהוב ועת לשנוא, עת מלחמה ועת שלום. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time for every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to laugh, a time to weep. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time for every purpose under heaven. A time to build up, a time to break down, a time to dance, a time to mourn, a time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, 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 and a time for every purpose under heaven. A time of love, a time of hate, a time of war, a time of peace, a time you may embrace, a time to refrain from embracing. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, 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 and a time for every purpose under heaven. A time to gain, a time to lose, a time to rend, a time to sow, a time to love, a time to hate, a time for peace. I hope it's not too late. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, 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 and a time for every purpose under heaven. מישהו בוכה בי, מישהו בירן, מישהו הולך בי בלי ידע לאן, מישהו גונח, מישהו צוהל, איש בי מתייפח, איש בי מתהולל. מישהו גונח, מישהו צוהל, איש בי מתייפח, איש בי מתהולל. מישהו בי ילד, מישהו בי סב, מישהו לתכלת בי נושא עיניו. משהו הומה בי חרש וממתין, ואני יודע ואיני מבין. משהו הומה בי חרש וממתין, ואני יודע ואיני מבין. כאשר אינך יודע מה דרך הרוח, כעצמים בבטן המלאה, ככה לא תדע את מעשה האלוהים אשר יעשה את הכל. בבוקר זרע את זרעך ולערב אל תנח ידיך, כי אינך יודע איזה יכשר הזה או זה, אם שניהם כאחד טובים. סוף דבר הכל נשמע, את האלוהים ירא ואת מצוותיו שמור, כי זה כל האדם. כי את כל מעשה האלוהים יביא במשפט על כל נעלם, אם טוב אם רע. סוף דבר הכל נשמע, את האלוהים ירא ואת מצוותיו שמור, כי זה כל האדם.
As I mentioned, this was going to be a long service no matter what. Chol Moed Sukkot, 2 Torahs, full Hallel, Hakafots, whole 9 yards. So I've been breaking my drasha over the course of the morning service, so my remarks at this point will not be that long. And just for those of you who are not here at the very beginning, I want you to know that my first 2 comments were the most brilliant and insightful that I've ever had. So if this one doesn't hold up, all I can tell you is you missed the good stuff. But that good stuff, let's just go over that. And the folks who were here earlier, I asked for your help. We started by looking at the very first blessing following the Barhu in creation. And that blessing taught us that creation is never described as being, it's not described as being perfect. Creation is described as being good. And the reason that's so important is we struggle when we see painful things unfold. We struggle when bad things occur within our world. We struggle when evil explodes within our lives. And we ask ourselves, why? Why isn't it different? And part of what the Siddur and part of what Jewish tradition wants us to understand is our world is not perfect. It is good, which means it gives us what we need in order to live. And then, just before the book of Kohelet, before we read from the book of Ecclesiastes, we pointed out the following question. Well, okay, so if this world is not perfect, but just good, if good and bad get mixed together and can unfold within our lives, how are we meant to live? And the book of Kohelet gave us, in those short snippets, its answer, which is we focus not on the correct beliefs, but on the correct approach to life. And the approach that Kohelet advocates is one where we understand and accept that life is fragile, that we embrace that fragility, and that we live joyously in the face of that fragility. All well and good. But then the Torah reading comes along, and it helps us deal with another question that's raised. It's all well and good for the book of Kohelet to say that we should live joyously, but the problem with just focusing on living joyously is living joyously can become a very selfish, hedonistic kind of pursuit. What balances that? What balances Jewish tradition's command, and it is a command, for us to be joyous and avoid becoming thoroughly narcissistic and selfish and self-centered. And the Torah reading gives us its answer. Now, let me ask the question that I put forth at the beginning of the Torah reading, which is, why was this Torah reading chosen for Chol Hamoed Sukkot? So having read along, what answers do people come up with? There's, I'm going to say, probably one fairly obvious one. So what's some of the reasons that people came up with in reading over the Torah portion? I remind you, quicker answers, quicker drosh. Okay, what happens towards the end of the Torah reading? What do we see? We see the repetition of the sacred calendar. And that's the reason that's generally given for why we read this Torah portion on both Chol Hamoed Sukkot and Chol Hamoed Pesach, during Passover as well. Because it mentions the sacred calendar, sacred holiday. This is why we read it. However, what's fascinating is, and rabbis have been going back and forth for this for a long time, is that's but the small fraction of the Torah reading. For the most part, the Torah reading does not focus on anything to deal with the holidays whatsoever. This Torah reading focuses on two things. First, it focuses on Moses' desire to see God and to experience God's presence. And the second thing is, it focuses on Moses' coming up again with 2 tablets in order to receive the 10 Commandments again. By the way, why does Moses have to receive the 10 Commandments again? Because he broke the first set. He broke the first set, and so intertwined in this amazing passage where God reveals God's qualities, God's divine midot of compassion and graciousness and kindness and forgiving. And when God reveals those qualities of God, it's also wrapped into, once again, the giving of the 10 Commandments. And I will suggest the following. The reason these are, and they are, by the way, if you look at it, they are literally interwoven. They're interwoven because you have text going back and forth between Moses experiencing God's presence and God telling Moses to come up because God's going to give him the commandments again. And I believe the reason they're interwoven is because the nature of the 10 Commandments, in their most basic form, teach us about what it takes to create a just society. It requires a certain level of respect for God, respect for our parents, and respect for one another. Without these things, there is no capability of us having a just society. And interwoven with all of that is Moses experiencing God's presence. Why join those two? I would say simply for this reason. How do we get to experience God's presence in our world, in our life today? One answer that Jewish tradition has been giving from the very beginning, it's not the only, but from the very beginning of the Torah itself, one of the answers is this: we experience God by creating a just society. You want to have God's presence? You want to be like Moses in the cleft of the rock as God passes by? Fine. 10 Commandments. Create that kind of society. And this is the Torah's answer to the hedonism that could come if we only followed Kohelet's advice. We only follow Kohelet's advice, we just live joyously. But the Torah and Jewish tradition is smarter than that and says, yes, live joyously. But live joyously while also creating the kind of society where people show the proper kavod, the proper respect for one another, where people show the proper respect for their elders, where people show the kind of respect that holiness and sanctity and divinity deserves. That's society will enable us to experience God's presence. And here's the problem. In order to create that society, there is one crucial emotion that we all must have, and that is outrage. In order to create a just society, we must get angry when we see injustice. We must not only feel pain, but we must burn when we see people treated unfairly. When we see atrocities, we have to have a feeling of outrage. Because if we lose that sense of outrage, we cannot create that kind of society. And if we're not going to work to create that society, not only are we not living up to the ideals of Jewish tradition, but our society and we ourselves will simply focus on living joyously and become selfish and self-centered. The reason I bring this up right now, the reason this came to me as I was studying this week's Torah portion and preparing, is because of what occurred in the college community of Roseburg, Oregon, these past 2 days ago, with the slaughter of 9 people and many, many injured. I reflect upon this and I share this because here was my personal struggle with this. And here is the part that pained me. Obviously, I was incredibly pained, and I cannot even imagine what that community and what those people are going through at this time. However, what I also could not help but be pained at in myself, that so disappointed me in myself, was my lack of outrage. And President Obama captured it perfectly. He noted that this has become all too routine. And in the face of routine abuse and outrage, again, or outrageous acts, again and again and again, we become numb. And we lose that sense of righteous indignation and anger that in the face of something that is truly wrong and sick. And with that loss of outrage, we lose the motivation to change. And if we don't change, then our society cannot become the just society it needs to be. Now, on the specific issue of gun control, I want to be honest. I do not know where to go with this. And I'm not suggesting at this point in time any kind of specific political action or something that we should do. And I feel bad about that because often when I'm up here, Rabbi Silver and I judge each other's drashot. We judge our works that we share with you by what it is we give you to do afterwards. We call it the takeaway. And I have no specific takeaway. I can't tell you where to go and what to do with this particular issue, but I will tell you this. There is a sickness, a madness in our country at this time when this can happen again and again and again and nothing change. I don't care whether you're a Democrat or Republican, whether you're a gun-carrying NRA member or a peacenik and a pacifist from Haverford College and a good Quaker. Doesn't make a difference. In the face of this kind of outrage, something has to change. Mass shootings let me just share with you a few statistics. 294 mass shootings, which by the way is defined as 4 or more people injured or killed, have occurred this year alone. If you're counting, that means more than one mass shooting every single day of this year. 45 of them have been at schools. 9,956 people this year have been killed due to gun violence. Over 20,000 injured. If you cannot hear these statistics and be outraged, then we are lost. And so my takeaway for this day is not a specific action, but at best this, a plea to myself, and a plea to all of you, and a plea to all of us. Rekindle your moral outrage. Rekindle it. Let yourself be outraged at the shootings that occurred this past week. Let yourself be outraged at the number of people within our society that are homeless. Let yourself be outraged at the number of people in our society and the number of children who go to bed each and every night hungry, not knowing the next day even where the next meal is coming from. Be outraged by these things. Do not be overwhelmed by them. Do not become daunted by them. Even if the solutions are not immediately at hand, let us not lose that emotion that is so essential if we are to make our world a better place. That is what this Torah reading comes to remind us, that even in this moment of time of journeys, we realize that our path to creating the society will take time, and we must never lose our hope in the ability for change or the emotions that will enable us to create that change. At this time, I'm going to ask everyone to please rise. There were 9 people who were mercilessly and senselessly slaughtered. We're going to share those 9 names at this time. And at least for now, not offer up a communal prayer, but just a moment of silence where we can pay homage and respect to those people and to consider and begin kindling our own sense of outrage. Trevin Taylor Anspach, age 20. Serena Dawn Moore, 44. Lawrence Levine, 67. Jason Dale Johnson, 34. Lucas Ebel, 18. Kim Saltmarsh Dietz, 59. Quinn Glenn Cooper, 18. Lasura Alakaz, 19. And Rebecca Ann Carnes, age 18. Our moment of silence begins at this time. May these names serve as a kindle within our hearts and our souls to continue to strive to make our society a better place. And let us all say, Amen. May be seated.